All right. Well, here come our attendees. Fantastic. Welcome, folks. It is the top of the hour, so we will respect everybody's time and get started. All right, Bryce and I are very excited about today's webinar. I, in particular, I love work orders. This is mastering the work order. I call it the Swiss Army knife of Skimmer. Today, we are going to cover work order basics, creation of a type of order, assignment of that order, scheduling that work order, doing the work, I can't tell you how to do that, and invoicing the work order. We're going to talk about managing permissions. You can manage who can create work orders and when. Sometimes there are work orders which you may want to enable for folks out in the field to just originate and resolve on the spot. Sometimes you want some more permission levels. We're going to cover customer communication specific to work orders. And we've got a pro tip from Bryce, why color coding your work orders is a really nice thing to do. So the rest of the slide deck kind of breaks down work orders a little more. And we talk about adding a new work order, the kind of life cycle that I just mentioned and where you can find all of that in Skimmer. And at the end, we're going to cover some work order FAQs. But I am going to let Bryce talk through all of this live and stop sharing my screen. Go ahead.
All right, so just kind of want to start off looking at the work orders themselves. So you can see, here's the work order where we can look at upcoming, new, scheduled, or finished. But how do you make a work order? So we're going to jump under settings, under work order types here. And, when Skimmer first gets set up, it only has a handful. And a lot of times when I see people Skimmer, they're using mostly just one. I say, let them go, do as many as you can think of. The more you can segment it, the easier it makes your workload later on. If you guys have been watching us for a while, I'm a big fan of saying, front load your work, do a lot of work up front to make the backside so much easier for you. And this is a good example of that. So this allows you to really get into the details. I like to pull up this one, I quote for pool service. You can add in all these different checklist items after you create your work order. You just hit add. And it's just like the same program when you're doing your service routes. You're going to have your description is what your technician sees. The description when complete is what your customer sees if you've enabled the emails on it and if it's swiped. So for an example, we have like base pool price. When I'm doing a quote, what I'll have here is it'll tell us the dollar amount. So I set this up as a little technique to get my customers the same quotes no matter which technician goes out there. As your company scales, which that's a lot of you, that's one of the reasons you got Skimmer, is so that you can get make your company a little bit larger. It doesn't matter which technician goes out there, you'll have consistent pricing. You're going to gather all the information that you need, what type of filters they have. You can add the same as any other work order. You can add the 5 photos to make sure that they're adding all the photos of things so you can see it. You can choose if the work order needs to be invoiced. For this one, you probably don't need that on, but most of ours, we like to keep it on just so it shows up under the finished tab and we have to mark that it's been invoiced as a control we'll talk about in a little bit. Alert the office when the work order is added. This will send the office an email. You can require photos to finish. This is the option to do the email the customer when it's finished. You can see in this case for our quote, I don't email them this page. What this is going to do is prompt my office to actually reach out. And then allow text to add this type. So if you want your technicians to be able to add something like a quote for pool service, you would check this box. Otherwise, when the technician goes to add a work order, they play off of a smaller list of work orders that are available. In this case, I don't allow my technicians to do this because I want that customer to contact the office first so that we can basically make sure that customer is going to be a good fit for us before we spend the time going out there. You can also do something that's really awesome with the recurring work orders. So you can see here, it looks like we forgot on the quarterly DE filter cleaning, there's not a recurring note. So it's so easy for me just to click this, to go to recurring. I want it to recur once a quarter. So, that's every 3 months. And now we're back set up. So it's going to show us that. If we were to create a new one, just to walk through it real quick, we'll do a description. I was thinking I would just show like a pump installation. Flavia touched on the color coding earlier. That's a real big deal to me. It just makes it easier at a glance for you to find what type of work is going to be scheduled to that particular type of person, so they can do their own follow-up real quick and easy, just looking for the color coding. In this case, for big installations, I use gray. Recurring, hopefully never, right? You're not installing a new pump every year for this customer. That's not good equipment. We would want it to be invoiced. We want the office to be alerted so they know that they need to order this product. Require the photos, definitely. And this case, I would want the customer to have an email letting them know that it was all taken care of. And then I would not allow technicians to add this, because I'm going to want to make sure that customers approve this work beforehand. The default work needed is just the note for your technician when they first get out there. So you can do something as simple as pump installation, or you can go into a lot of detail about what wire you want them to have, what different items that they need to make sure that they have, wire, plumbing, all that stuff. Your default price, whatever you guys are installing your pumps for right now, you might want to put that in there. Just throw in a giant dollar amount. Your default labor cost, how much are you going to pay your technician when they're out there for this type of job, whatever it is that you guys pay. Your estimated installation time. This is, again, looking at the jobs as a whole, and you can modify it. I know that sometimes you have lots of space, and sometimes it's like right against the wall or something. It's going to be a big pain. 60 minutes is probably a good average for this type of work. And then, of course, your email info, your email subject. It's something like your new equipment isn't installed. And then, of course, your header and your default email message, which you can customize so that you get the best. It's in your own voice. It sounds good. So at this point, we can't add a checklist yet, but we'll hit save. And once it's created it, now we can add the checklist items. So you're able to add everything that you want them to do. So I might say, cut out old pump and take a photo. And this will prompt my technician to take their photos as they're going through it. You can kind of, I like to tell a story as I'm doing my work order. So when the customer looks at the photos, they can say, oh, this is the old one, this is the new one. It's very clear. And you can add whatever checklist items you have, anything else you have on here. But one thing that's really important to me is taking a photo of the serial number, and then you can have serial number attached. But you just have something like that, so that any of your technicians that go out there can swipe these as they go through them. But that's generally how you make a work order. I think that we'll probably send you guys a list of some of the work order types that I use too.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I like to use it even as like a CRM. So you can see things like, calling the customer back, doing a meeting, printing your invoices, and just follow up on quotes and exits. So if somebody doesn't choose to go with our service, we like to follow up, or if they cancel service, we still do a follow up, which includes things that are kind of more upper level for analytics, but also making sure that we do things like remove them from Skimmer, so we don't continue to service without billing or something awful like that.
So if there's a lot of administrative type of work that you do, and you want to keep it all in one system, this is one way to do it. And I know Bryce has color coded things too, such that administrative items are in certain colors and kind of field items are in another color. Why don't we assign a work order, or originate a work order? How about both from the field and from the admin perspective, Bryce?
Yeah, definitely. So if we were to to actually have one scheduled out, you can see, these are all jobs that are actually scheduled to a technician. So basically you can see, it was scheduled way out in July. We can move it out to today, to call on the way. This is how you would set it up when you're actually creating a work order. In this case, for a startup job, which is, this is not like a new pool startup or an open, but this is more after a pool's been refilled after a drain, which is something we have to do out in Arizona pretty often. So this basically just allows us to schedule it. You can have your price point here. In order to show the app, Flavia, I'll have to throw the screen back at you for a second so I can show that side of it too.
It's okay. Go ahead, show the admin view first, and then we can flip back.
Yeah, so from the admin view, if we were to look at finished invoices, so you'd be looking at all in. I usually would say look at needs invoice, but if we just look at all invoice statuses right now, and it's kind of limiting it, we'll extend that date range, and we can see there's a few more that actually need to be invoiced still. So if we were to pull up this one, quarterly filter cleaning that was completed for this customer, so this has already been completed by the technician. You'd be able to review the photos, make sure everything looks good in those, that they did everything they're supposed to. And then after you're ready to create your invoice using QuickBooks, or if you're using the invoicing program, you can mark that it was invoiced and hit save. And now it shows up that it's already been invoiced. But of course, we still keep track record of it. When we talk about the color coding, this is the main page that I'm talking about when we're looking at things for new work orders, especially things that have just been created that need to be assigned. So we can really quickly at a glance say, who's responsible for these. This one is the green color. That means it's an office job. So let's go ahead and get it scheduled for today for one of my office people and make sure that it gets taken care of. So really easy to set it up this way. And then looking at scheduled as well, this is stuff that's already been assigned. So a lot of times we'll look at the date that it's been scheduled. If it's past that date, then you know that it wasn't finished on that day. So it's important to go back and follow up, find out why it wasn't finished, move it to a date that it can be done again, and get caught up. And then of course the upcoming work orders. So these are work orders.
Bryce, did you show how to like assign a work order to a customer in the web app?
Yeah.
Like, let's pretend there's a customer who needs an assigned work order. Like, let's say you haven't enabled originating work orders from techs in the field, and whoever is on the admin gets a call that we need a pump installation, or Chuck Bartowski needs a pump installation, right? So Bryce is working it through. You'd look up your customer and you can assign a work order. If you scroll down and add, and there's two fields, one for work orders, one for recurring work. So he can assign a work order right there, and it'll populate with all of the information that you created under settings, right? Under work order types. Right. So go ahead. So now I believe it was Chuck Bartowski. Yeah. Yep. So now Chuck Bartowski is getting assigned to this pump installation. But just because it's originated there doesn't mean it's scheduled yet. You have to keep going here and assign it to a tech and give it a service date. Now, the nice thing is, on the right-hand side under route assignment info, so Chuck is not currently on any recurring assigned route, but if he were, you'd be able to see, oh, such and such tech visits on Wednesdays. So I'm going to assign this work order to that tech on that Wednesday, so they do their regular servicing of the pool plus the pump installation, right? So yeah, Bryce is making that happen. So you can optimize when the work order happens and minimize, trips back out and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great when it gives you all this information so you can schedule it. Something like a pump installation might not necessarily be done on that route assignment, the lots of work that we do would be. So it's very helpful.
And note that in that field too, there's a scheduled time. This is optional, but if you need to, if there's a customer who's like, I want to be there, I want to see this work, or I want to talk to you about this work, you can schedule the precise time, and that'll populate in a text or in yours or whoever it is in their assignment for that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only times, but also we'll do things like different acronyms here. So if it is someone who wants to be there and they have to come from work, you might do COW, which is call on the way, or we do TOW, to text on the way. So that way we give them a heads up, hey, we're on the way there. We'll be there in 30 minutes or something, so that they can make sure that they know you're coming and they're prepared. I had one earlier today that had, aggressive dogs, and that's why she wanted us. That's why she wanted us to let her know. So you can make just additional notes. So when you arrive on the property, let's make sure the dogs aren't in the yard still, something like that.
And so now we have created a type of work order. We have assigned it to a customer, and we have scheduled it. If you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, you can email a customer specifically about this work order. Bryce, do you mind clicking through there and showing them what happens there?
I'm sorry.
Upper right-hand corner, email customer.
If you wanted to, really do a quick email.
Yeah. So this is, go ahead. I'm sure you've used this.
It's just, makes it real quick and easy. Just you can paste everything that you needed, and you can do kind of an email on the side just to encourage more communication or approvals, something like that.
Yeah, frequently you want to confirm, we're coming on this date. This is going to be the person on site performing the work, installation, repair, whatever it is. And as it says right there, the photos will be included. So again, it's integrating all of this nice stuff there.
Right. And then one thing you can't do on the service, but you can do on the work orders is actually upload photos. So we'll use this sometimes if there was a diagnosis work order where someone went out, took photos of the issues for us. Then you're able to download those photos and upload them again here, and include work orders of the issue beforehand, which is great for that email, but also great for the technician who's going out there. They can look at the photo, see, oh, this is what I'm going to need. I can see the photos of how the plumbing is, or, whatever it is that you're up against, just so you can be a little bit more prepared to go out to the job.
Awesome. So now what's going to happen is this should show up on Flavia De La Fuente's route. That's me. Wednesday on March 2nd. So if you go to routes, it should populate there for me. So let's say I go out, do all that work, and we're gonna just keep pushing this through, and then show you how the invoicing works on the back end. So I have a visit to Chuck, and I'm going to service Chuck and do that work. And when it's finished, can rearrange.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And then you'd be able to, from that app, you'd be able to finish this work order.
Yeah. So when a work order is completed under work orders, it's going to show up as finished. Do you want to talk them through kind of the finished to invoicing flow here?
So for me personally, when we do invoicing, like with my company, I only do invoicing at the end of the month for the coming month plus chemicals is how I do it. So when I have things like work orders, typically I'm creating individual work orders in QuickBooks for it. So I would look at the work order, and then I'd have, QuickBooks open, and I'd make another invoice specifically for this, rather than using the QBO feature for it, just because, for a business my size, cash flow is very important. So this just makes sure that we're generating cash flow a little bit faster. So, I guess, Flavia, I don't know how to generate it with, I guess we can create one invoice. No, that's not it. we can't include the work orders here, and then we could just remove this. So I guess, it would be pretty easy for us to invoice all those too.
Yeah.
So this is me literally never having done this before. And you can see it's pretty user friendly there. And I did actually set this up with QuickBooks yesterday. So
Awesome. There we go.
I guess I'd still have to do all this though.
Yeah. And a note on the drop down beneath work orders is, when you set up a recurring work order, it doesn't automatically assign it to somebody. You'll see that it's upcoming and that it's, oh, this is something that is supposed to happen quarterly or yearly or whatever it is. And then you need to actually create it to assign it to that customer. So Hamid Arnold is due for a quarterly filter cleaning. You need to actually assign it out and schedule it to him. So just because the recurring work order has been created, there's one more step that needs to happen to make sure that it's assigned and somebody actually goes out there and does that work. So just a small, like, last little step that needs to happen for the full flow to work.
Yeah, and for us out here, we typically do filter cleanings every 6 months. So we utilize this quite a bit. It's a huge advantage for us to look at the upcoming. We can see all the people who we've done filter cleans it for in the past, who are coming up due, and we can reach out to all these people individually to make sure that it's getting taken care of. We'll call them and get it authorized. And once they authorize it, it's real easy to create the work order right here. And it's the same thing that we were looking at earlier with that pump installation. We can see what days someone's going to be there, who's going to be out there. So we'd right away just say, all right, next time that Cody's out there, a week from today, let's have him take care of that job. And
Bryce, do you want to flip to the app and show folks how to originate a work order from the field and kind of what the flow looks like for somebody out in the field?
Yeah, you want to pull up the
Yeah, absolutely.
For a second, and I'll get that up.
Yeah. So while Bryce pulls that up, I try and lay out some of the fundamentals of work orders here in the slides, but I'm very big on emphasizing the full life cycle of it. Again, adding the new work order, I think it's important to remember the work order pricing is estimated when created, and you get a chance to review that at the invoicing stage. So we put $5,000 for a pump installation. If something happens in the field and there's an additional thing that needs to happen, or a random chemical dosage that comes up, you can always review that work order at the end to make sure that it is priced appropriately. And then we're going to do a couple FAQs. I'm ready when you are, Bryce.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Take it.
So when we actually pull up the app view, right now I'm logged in as Cody, so we can open this up. Everything's pretty much the same. So we want to show, if he's over here and he wants to actually add a work order while he's at the property, we have the ability right here underneath the customer's information to add. And then you can see that Cody's restricted. He can only add a couple of work orders. He doesn't have that full list that we have when we're in the administrative panel. So this just, it makes sure that people can't add work orders that you don't want them to add. Things like I've said before, the equipment install and things like that. But they can do a supervisor check if they want someone to follow up behind them. Right now I have it set up so that he can add a cartridge filter cleaning. So if he clicks on it, it already comes with all the information that we have it set up with. So it's really easy for him just to assign it to, he can assign it to whomever, but we'll assign it to ourselves so that we can see what it looks like. Estimated or scheduled time, we don't need that. Hit save, and now it's on here. So if he backs out, he can see it on his schedule. We're able to click in here and actually complete the work order now.
And to complete it, same functionality as a lot of the rest of Skimmer in the app. You just give it a little swipe. And if you didn't mean to swipe, you swipe again. But, originating the work, doing it, finishing it, you have, for trusted folks in the field, they have the ability to complete that full cycle there without having to, to check in with the office too much.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, it's great for some work orders and not for others. So it's awesome that you can choose which ones to allow.
All right, let's hit our frequently asked questions, because we get too excited about work orders and talk too much about them. But let's say you have a work order that involves multiple techs, or a work order that spans multiple days. What do you do in that situation, Bryce?
So this is what I do, which we'll jump to the drain again. When we're draining a pool, it takes a day or so to drain it. Then we have to go back. We have to pick up the drain and drop the hose and start filling the pool back up, and then we have to go back in for startups to prime all the equipment back up, balance the chemicals again. So in this case, it is a 3-day project. It could be any technicians. And what I've done, each work order is designed to be completed in 1 day. So what I've done is create, basically a work order that spans 3 days by splitting it up into each of its sections. So each section, I love that color coding. I have them all color coded the same way. Each section has all this information into it. One thing that I do differently is the default labor cost. You might choose to pay for each part of the job if you're going to have someone different doing it. So maybe you pay your technician $20 to drop off a drain, something like that. But I'm going to have the default price be $0 for this work, because I'm not going to charge for it until the job's all the way done. So then we go to the next stage, to pick up the drain and begin filling. And same thing, no default price. The default labor cost, maybe we should have something in there. We're going to pay them to actually go and pick everything back up. And then finally, at the end, when they get there to do the startups, this is where we would bill the customer. So you'd put in there, whatever it is that you charge for a drain and startup. For us, it's probably close to $300 for the 3 different trips. So that's what we're going to charge for it. And it just shows up here on just this one. So that way we don't invoice for, 3 different invoices for the same job, or accidentally triple charge it or something like that. So that's how I like to handle that one.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you track chemicals usage in a work order?
So you can, there's 2 ways for us to answer this one. Let's go back into startups here. So when we do our startups out here, we typically have to add cyanuric acid. So we could set it up under like an items needed type thing under the work order itself. If we created one of these work orders, let me do it. And we're picking on Chuck again. So if we have the work order created, we're able to go back into it, and we can add items needed. So we could add something that is needed, like a chemical. And you can see that we have the list of chemicals here. So it could track that for us from this respect, but you can see it's not really tracking the quantity. It's just going to tell us, did we put salt in there, and we could put into our notes of what we added. So typically if it's a situation where I want to track the chemical usage, what I'm actually going to do, we're going to pick on Chuck again. What I'm actually going to do is not add a work order, but add an additional route assignment that just starts and ends on 1 day. So if we pick on Flavia again, we know she's out there on Wednesday, and it's just this one day that I want to track what chemicals she's going to add. You can see it's going to add it for just the 1 day. And then it's going to be a lot like your service report, and the chemicals that you fill out on that point are going to show up in all of your reports in the future. If you're doing your chemical dosage report, or on your invoicing, if you charge for plus chemicals. So in that scenario, that's probably what I would do, is actually add a 1 day route assignment.
Awesome. All right. And our last question was from the audience. If you create an invoice in Skimmer, does the invoice automatically show in QuickBooks?
No, it's so what you're doing in here, I guess, if we were to look at the checked off box, if we check this box off, just saying that it's invoiced,
Yeah.
that's not connected to QuickBooks at all. This is just our own way of measuring whether or not it's done. If you were to go into the QuickBooks billing and you were to do this, the work orders, and you're not including pool service like I had set up here, in this situation, yes, that invoice would be created. So depending on which scenario you're talking about, that answer kind of changes. So hopefully that answered that question.
Happy to send a little follow-up on that specific question.
Yeah.
But it is 30 minutes after the hour, right on time. Thank you for joining us for work orders, everybody. And we will be here next week, same time, same place, with another topic.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I know this is really, really dense. There's so much that work orders can do. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to help set up. I think most of the times when someone's struggling with something or they wish we had a feature, it's like, we do. Let's talk about work orders. So
Yep.
please
Yep.
reach out.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good luck out there.